On today's episode of Bytes and Banter, we're joined by Phil Gerbyshak, the happiness instigator and educator, friend to HDI, a good friend of mine. How you doing, Phil?
Hey, Rocky, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited to talk to you. This has been an episode I think in the long time coming in the making. Over coffee chats and just getting to hear your journey. I think you have so much value to bring to our audience, and so I'm just excited for you to have the opportunity to tell your story a little bit. So let's start there, Phil. You have quite a background, quite a journey in your career and involvement in HDI, all these different twists and turns. Walk me through just kind of how did Phil land where Phil is today? What does that look like?
Well, Phil joined the Navy out of high school and wanted to be a teacher. So that's kind of where I started out, wanting to be a teacher and wanting to educate people. So I've been educating adults for a long time. So I've done that as a help desk manager, I've done that as a trainer, I've done that as a coach, I've done that as a consultant, and now I get to do that as a high school teacher. So yeah, so that's how we get to where we are today, Rocky.
So yeah, all these different worlds colliding, right? And there's just a common theme that I think, Phil, that you just exude, and that is kind of your title that we introduced you as, right? It's a happiness instigator. You just have this ability to rally people and to motivate people and to inspire people. And I would love for you to walk me through kind of what ultimately brought that passion up in you? Where did that come from? Where did it start? Why are you so passionate about helping people navigate life's challenges and bringing more happiness to people?
Well, I think that what happened is I didn't have a big brother. I'm the oldest in the family. So I had to kind of do it for myself. In the military, I didn't have a good mentor. So I had to do it for myself. And then I went to college and I was an older college student. So I got to be a mentor right away. So I just got used to being mentored, being that mentor for people. So as it relates to happiness and motivation and all that stuff, I can't say that I know an exact time when I kind of transitioned and decided this is what I wanted to do. But I can tell you that HCI definitely had a play in that because there was an event with Kirk Wiesler that we had at our HCI chapter, and Kirk was nice enough to spend some time after the meeting with me, talking about the books that he'd read, the books that shaped him, and so I decided to read all those books because many of them I'd already read, but some of the ones that I hadn't yet, I put on my list to read, and then I read them. And then he said, "Hey, buddy, you can't just read them though. You got to share them." Well, okay, how do I share these books? Well, I share them by speaking, I share them by coaching, I share them by training, I share them in my weekly meetings with my team, stuff like that. So I guess that was kind of the decision, and then I got a little bigger, and I got to be able to share that with my whole department, my whole IT department, because I became one of the leaders that people look to for different books to read, different things to see, ideas to make. So yeah, that's basically the beginning of the Phil Gerbyshak you know today, Rocky.
I love that our journeys have such a similar intersection in Kirk. Because, we've talked, I don't know if I told you the story that the first time I went to Sport World Live and I saw Kirk speak is when I decided, like, hey, our industry needs more people like Phil, like Kirk, and not just the technology. They need the people side, right? They need that. And it's cool to hear just that component still lives on and who Kirk is today in an intersection. Now, so one thing that you're so passionate about and great at helping people navigate is burnout. Like, walk me through, right? We live in this world where technology workers. I just read an article like last week. It's the number 5 industry when it comes to burnout, which is crazy because you think, the top 4 are like healthcare, teaching, education's one of them, Phil. So kind of 2 of your worlds combining, and but we are just so quick to give. I feel like our industry is full of people who face burnout. So what would you tell someone who's in the midst of it or who maybe doesn't even realize it? Like, how do you recognize that you're coming up on burnout? Like, what does that look like? I mean, you're really good at this topic, and so I want to give you the platform to kind of talk a little bit about it because I think it's really important.
Yeah, well, I think we recognize burnout based on the fact that we don't want to do the things that we love to do. A
Mm,
lot of times that's how we know that we're burnt out. So if we really love to do something and we're not doing that anymore, well, that's a good sign that we're probably burnt out. Another sign is that we're sleeping more than usual or maybe
mm,
sleeping less than usual. So rest is a big thing for me that I talk to people about, not just sleep, but rest, right?
mm.
Taking time away to do their own thing, to do the thing that makes them happy, to do the thing that makes them energized. That is really important. So I make time every day to rest, to slow down, to sit quietly with myself. Sometimes I nap. I like naps. Naps are good for me. Naps are
Yeah.
probably good for everybody. So I think, things like that are really big. I think the other thing that we can recognize is that we're a little more short with people than we normally would be.
Mm,
So if we're short with people, especially for no reason, it's a possibility that maybe we're burnt out. So what do we do about that?
mm.
What do we do? That's the big question. It's great to know it. Now what do we do? Well, we have to look at all of our responsibilities and say, okay, well maybe some of them need to be on hold for a little while. Maybe we need to take a little break. Not all of them can be given a break too. That's
Yeah.
the thing, right? So the ones that can, we need to give them a break, take some time and make some time for those that matter the most to us. Recharge by being with people that charge you up. Spend some time with the family. Spend some time with friends that make you feel more energized. Make some time, reach out. Don't be shy. And that being said, if you're feeling like, oh, geez, I don't want to be a burden, here's the thing. If you're a giver, most people want to give back to you. So
Mm,
let them give back. Let them take the time to pour back into you. Because if you're an empty vessel, it's really hard to give anything from being an empty vessel. So let people pour back into you. Even if you're a little cracked, a little chipped, that's okay. Just let people pour into you and do your best to accept that. And the biggest way that we can accept is just two words: thank you. Real simple.
mm.
Somebody pours in us, thank you. It's real easy. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Just thank you. And I think that's how we can overcome some of this burnout.
Man, that's so good. Number one, I need to have you over to my house because you're like 15 minutes away, and I can't have you over to my house to convince my toddlers that sleep and naps are a good thing. Because they are, it's as adults, we do the things that kids fight, and we do them for fun. Um, you, as I hear you talking about just burnout and recognizing it and overcoming it, and uh, I just finished up an article and I just sent it over to HDI. And it was pretty raw for me, pretty straightforward. And it was about this idea that technology workers were empty. We're empty and we're selfless, right? To your point, we're naturally givers. And, one thing like the first tip, right, to overcome that I provided, Phil, is kind of in line with what you're talking about. It's surrounding yourself with people who are going to refill your cup, right? And I'd be curious to hear you kind of flesh that out a little bit. Specifically, I think we spend so much time on the surface, right? If I see you at conference and we brush shoulders, how are you? How are your kids? Great. How was your flight here? But what does it look like to really let yourself be known in those moments of burnout, right? And those people, like, walk me through what that might practically look like, because obviously superficial relationships aren't going to help fill your cup back up. So how do you get below the surface and make those relationships deeper so you are filling your cup back up?
Well, one-on-one is the only way to do that, really, or one on small group.
Mm,
So we have to take those relationships out of the hallway, maybe into a hotel room or into another room, and actually have a conversation back home, right? Make time back home, because maybe conference isn't the best place. But I can tell you that I always made time to have a meal when I was at a conference. I would always have time to have a meal with someone and spend 30 minutes with them. Spend those 30 minutes and really go deeper and to actually talk about, so what's going on beyond the how's the weather, how's the flight, how's the food, and really going deeper. So but that's a one-on-one thing, man, and that's hard.
yeah.
That makes some people uncomfortable. You have to be willing to do it. I've been fortunate that my friend Bren Hansen has been a big proponent of mine. We've been friends of each other for a long time. And Dan Wilson of Motown, now in Florida, we poured into each other. And so that's really, that one-on-one time is really important.
Mm.
That's really what fills me up.
No, I love that. I think it's spot on. It's easy to have large group settings, but you can't really build a deep relationship. It's like if you're married and it's never just you and your wife, right? The kids never go to bed. You always have people in your house. It's always a party. How do you develop that relationship in a meaningful way? It's similar, I think, to our colleagues, to our mentors, and I think you're spot on. Just having that intentional time, right? It's got to be intentional, asking the hard questions. And, I don't know if you ever struggle with this. I struggle sometimes with being willing to put my crap on the table for other people, not because of fear, but because I don't want to be a burden.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I think that's normal that those of us that give a lot worry about being a burden. And I think it's also normal to understand that most people don't feel like you're a burden. And those that
Mm.
do aren't going to give you the time anyway. They're going to be like, "Oh, I got to go. I'm kind of busy right now." Or they're going to zone out. You can tell, Rocky. You can
Yeah.
tell those people that don't really care about your crap that they're going to leave. Now, they might not physically leave, but they're going to mentally check out. You look in their eyes and you're like, "Hello, hello, anybody there?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what it is. And then, you can certainly start by, you don't have to go super deep at first. You can go sort of deep at first and have a conversation that way. Start with a little deeper and then go deeper than that. And then it just takes time. I mean, not everybody's ready for a 3 a.m. Conversation.
I love that. 3 a.m. conversation. That should be a tagline, right? Like you
Right.
should write a book called 3 a.m. Conversations, Phil. I feel like that's waiting to be sold.
There
3 a.m.
you go.
conversations, how to build relationships and overcome burnout.
There you go.
Maybe that's our tagline for this episode. We'll
There you
see.
go.
We'll
Could
see.
be.
So burnout's one component, but definitely in this world of givers, which technology workers are, no matter what role you're in, we're constantly either fixing problems or trying to improve experiences. How do you energize those around you, right? Maybe the leaders that are listening to this, or the people who are, maybe they're not a technical leader, right, in position, but they want to bring energy to their team. How do they do that more effectively?
Well, it starts by being energized. You have to be the person that is energized. You have to find out what energizes you first. Is that working out? Is that nap? What is that? Is that surrounding yourself with other people? Figure out what it is that jazzes you up and do that.
Hmm.
Right? That's the first way that you can do that. And then from there, you have to be authentic. You have to
Yeah.
be real. And that means sometimes sharing the crap that nobody else wants to share. Now, that doesn't mean you throw all your crap on the table, but it does
Yeah.
mean you could throw some of that on the table so that people understand it, right? So that people see that you're not just happy-go-lucky person. Because I get asked a lot, so are you ever sad? Are you ever not happy? And of course I am.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a human being too. I'm not a robot. I definitely have crappy days. And acknowledging that, right? Acknowledging, yeah, I have bad days too. So I think that's where it really starts, is being energetic, being authentic. And then last but not least, right, we have to just be who we are, right? How you jazz people up, Rocky, might not be how I jazz people up. And
Yeah.
that's totally cool. So you have to find out. I mean, when I say that, that maybe sounds like a cop out. Like, come on, what's the magic pill? What is it? Well, the magic pill is to be more you, right? To be more of you, of who you are, so you can engage those people. Because frankly, you have a much better chance of engaging people with who you are than with who I am.
I mean, absolutely. I think trying to force a behavior, trying to force a personality, not everybody's outgoing. Not everybody, and you and I sat down on coffee and we've talked about the ebbs and flows of life, right? And being human is a good thing. Definitely in the technology world, sometimes I think we forget, like, the people around us, the people who are picking up a phone and talking to, support them, or the team we're working on to d- get the next tool available for our end users, whatever it is. They're all humans who also have bad days,
Yep.
right? And that's below the surface, right? And one thing, when I hear you talking, Phil, that comes to mind to me is, we don't control the crap all the time, but we always get to control how we choose to respond to that crap, right?
Yep.
When it hits the fan, Are you gonna sit and look up at the fan, right? Are you gonna find a different room to go to? Are you gonna go take a shower? Like, what does that look like? Um, no, that's good. You you also were someone who has really pivoted, right, careers a number of
Yeah.
times in your journey. So we could spend a whole episode talking about this very thing, but I have a few questions. We're curious to hear kind of your thoughts on. Number one, and I will start here, is how do you know, like, hey, maybe it's time to shift? Like, what does that look like?
Boy, I don't know. I think you just, for me, I just have shifted.
Yeah.
I get a feeling that like maybe I'm done. I've done enough in what I can do. Sometimes it shifts me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just shift, right? Sometimes, the world is clearly sending signals that this is not the path anymore. It's time to do something else. I think that's it for a lot of it. Now, that being said, there's always a thread that runs through. That thread of education, that thread of teaching, that thread of helping has always run through everything that I do.
Yeah.
But I think, the world kind of tells you, and you just got to listen. That's where being quiet, that's where napping, that's where, spending some time by yourself. A nap doesn't have to be asleep. You can just be a nap where you close your eyes and you just sit for a little bit and you be quiet. So
Mm.
I think the world is always telling us what we need to know. We just have to listen to it.
That's good. I think self-awareness is such an underrated skill, right? You have to train it. It's a muscle, really. It is a muscle. If you don't take the time to pause and be present, you'll never recognize those signs you're talking about, right? Maybe
Right.
I'm not happy with this work anymore. Maybe it doesn't excite me, right? Maybe I'm not building the relationships or using the tools that I want to use the way I want to use them. Or for you, it's like, oh, Phil, our audience, you didn't explain this, but you had a season of life where you laid down a career so that you could support your significant other, right? And moved across the country so that she could pursue something she loved, which for you is just timing, but it also gave you an opportunity to pivot to say, hey, I want to educate kids. I want to be a teacher and I want to pursue this. And I love that. I love that you got to use your talent in a new way because of a sacrifice you made in a moment. It's just so cool. Now, as you're navigating a new workplace, a new career, a new path, what are the things that you should be looking out for to say, number one, oh man, did I get in over my head? Number two, right? Is this the right fit? Am I doing the thing that I thought I was gonna do? Like, how do you navigate that transition as you're changing career paths? Like, what does that look like?
Wow. Well, I think you're always in over your head. If you're doing it right any way you are, I think that you should be challenging yourself and you should be
Yeah.
looking for new ways to challenge yourself. You have to be looking for new ways that are harder. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. I don't think that it makes any sense just to pivot to pivot. You got
Yeah.
to pivot to make a change that kind of up levels yourself. I always joke that every year I'm a new level, right? So this coming year I'll be level 5.2. So as opposed to being an age, I'm a level. So I think that's one of the things. I think the other thing is finding a mentor that if you can find a mentor that you can ask questions of. Maybe that's your boss. Maybe it's not. Hopefully it is. That you can ask questions like, how am I really doing here? Am I doing this right? Am I doing what's expected of me? What else can I do to make this even better? I think that those are the things that we can do. And then self reflection, taking time by ourselves, asking yourself, am I doing my best? Am I giving all that I have?
Yeah.
I think that's really important too. I mean, I've got my notebook over there that I try to write in as often as I can, which isn't often enough, by the way. I try to write in that about what I'm doing and what it's not just notes of what's happening. I try to write notes of what I'm thinking and what I'm kind of cogitating on. So
Mm.
those are some of the ways that I find it better to do this sort of stuff, to get to the next level, to help realize that I am in over my head, but that's a good thing.
If you're not uncomfortable, you're never really gonna grow, right?
That's right. Yeah.
From a knowledge, emotionally, conflict is such a shunned thing in our world, but it's good. It's good to have that tension, right? It's a healthy thing to have tension. When you are writing things down, like in that notebook, Is that just like in the moment? You have like a specific like, hey, in the morning I journal and I write down what I'm thinking when I'm at like what does that look like? And have you do you like look back on those notes and say, huh, I have aha moments or like, hey, I want to do that now? Or like what is like walk me through that because I think it's a really cool practice.
Mostly in the moment. I don't have a set time that I write. I write mostly in the moment. When I feel like writing, that's when I write.
Yeah.
I write articles. I write an article every week on my Happy AF blog. So I write at least once a week, and I get ahead so that I don't feel the pressure of having to produce every week because that's a lot. It can be a lot. It's a lot for me. I don't know. Maybe for
Yeah.
somebody else, maybe it's not, but it is for me. Having to produce something every week, that's very challenging for me, in a good way. I mean, I appreciate it, but if I can get ahead, I can be even better so that I can, again, be more in the moment so I can write about it. I can think about it. And to your question about looking back, yeah, I look back, but not as much as I thought I would. I write it down in the
Yeah.
moment and then I don't look at it again a lot of times for years, sometimes. And then I like, oh, wow, I actually said something smart here. That's pretty cool.
No, that I think that's good. I think my wife's a journaler, and a part of it is she's not really an external processor. So for her, like as she goes through the ebbs and flows of life, the ups and downs, the challenges, it helps her to write it down because she can take the time to think about her thoughts and process her thoughts. And for me, I'm like, hey Phil, I need to talk to somebody. Let's get coffee.
Yeah.
Let me pick up the phone because it's easier for me, right? And um, I I think one thing I'm going to take away from our conversation, if nothing else, is I need to start using the little notes app in my phone that I started years ago more consistently when I have those little thoughts like, oh, Bill said that. And I want to make sure I remember that, and keeping those written down. I think it's good. Um, no, Phil, for you, you you've done speaking, right? You've done teaching
Mhm.
at different levels. You've trained sales, you've trained, our HDI support world. You've done a lot of these different things. What have you found as a common thread, definitely as the industry's changing and AI is coming and play, and there's this combination of fear, like I don't know what it's gonna do to my job, this combination of hope, like, oh, it's gonna make things easier. Like what are you seeing happening in our industry that you feel like we should pivot? Like, hey, I wish that we would focus more on this. If there's anything that comes to mind, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think continue to focus on the human side. The things
Mm,
that AI can't do, I think is really important. It's not about the things AI can do, though certainly we should learn those. Absolutely. We should embrace those. We should learn those. We should see how those are changing our jobs. But we should also think about the things that AI can't do. For now, one of those big things is empathy. One of those big things is empathy. So, how do we give more empathy to the people that we love, people that we support, the people that we're trying to help? How do we
mm,
give more empathy to the people in the room, our team, our managers, our leaders? How do we give more empathy to people? I think that's a big thing because a lot of people, I think they focus a lot on the tech side, and the tech side absolutely matters. Don't misunderstand me, but you have to do the things that tech can't do,
mm.
and I think that's always been my thread. That's always been the thread. I mean, not again. I've taught technology. I'm going in to teach programming and video game design. That's what I'm going to be teaching in high school. But I'm going to be teaching those kids also how to be empathetic,
Mm.
how to be more people, be more human. I talked about this before, right? You got to be more human, be more you. How do we teach people how to do that? And a lot of that is just letting them explore, letting them see what might be important for them. I think those are some important things as well. That's that's what I'm going to focus on. Even though I'm teaching tech, I'm going to focus on the human side as well. And I'm going to bring in humans like you, Rocky, to talk to my team.
Yeah, so it'd be an honor to come talk to those kids. It's exciting. So I love that you use the word empathy, right? When you talk about what humans can do, because empathy is something that can change someone's life. Um, Given the right circumstances, right? You never know what people have going on. AI will never be able to. It can say words, right? But from a deep human connection, it'll never understand what it's like to go through what you're going through. and to be able to just be present with you, right? So I love that. I love that. Phil, before we wrap up, is there any other just back of your head things that are like on your heart, on your mind that you really would think are just valuable? Obviously, the human side, super important. I love your passion for that. Never make sure that never goes away. We need more of that industry. But is there anything just burning that you think? I really think our support folks, our technology folks, really should know this, should be focused on this, should hear this. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
I'll give three H's. That one of them is human, of course, right? One of them is human. Being more human and being more available, I think is important. I think the next one is helpful, which I think a lot of folks do really well, being helpful. But that means being helpful to other people, not just those that we think we serve, but also everybody else around us, because we never know the crap that anybody else is going through. So we have to be helpful. And then last but not least is humble, because we don't know everything. We have to lead with our heart. And that's humility and humbleness. So those are the three things, I guess, that I'd want to wrap up with is human, helpful, and humble. If we can think about those and focus on those, I think we're going to go a long ways towards being a better person, being a better support tech, being a better leader, being a better parent, being a better whatever the heck it is in your world that matters to you. I think if you can focus on those three things, you can be a lot better off.
I just want to give you a microphone across the screen so you can drop it, Phil. Just on point, sir. So last question before we wrap up the episode. If you could hit rewind, you get the click, the Adam Sandler remote, you rewind to a time in your life when you're younger. And let's say it's, I don't know, 3.2 or 2.8, whatever, level you want to rewind to. What is the words of advice or wisdom you would give younger Phil?
Be more confident in who you are and really know that you know more than you think you do. And just be confident that you're making the right decision, even when it feels like it's completely wrong. So be okay with that. Be okay with that discomfort that comes with making a hard decision and lean into it, but don't change anything.
Love it. I love it. Phil, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll connect again, obviously, with you starting, this new chapter of your life. I'd love to know how we can be plugged in through HA local chapters, definitely with Ohio, myself. And I'm really, really excited for you. And I'm really thankful that you're a part of our community. So, where can people catch you, subscribe to your newsletter? Where can they find all that information?
Yeah, the easiest way to go to happyaf.substack.com. You can find me there. Sign up. I write every Monday. So if you check that out, that's there. And then now and then I pop in some podcast episodes or some extra articles. If I've really got something to say, really timely, I'll post there. So happyaf.substack.com. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can feel free to find me there too. If you can spell Gerbyshak, you can find me. Gerbyshak. You can find me. Pretty simple.
Thank you so much for your time, Phil. For our audience, go be happy AF. And we will catch you on the next episode of Bytes and Banter.